Some of the greatest minds in history created machines and ideas that changed the world, but for some, their genius became their curse. From flying contraptions that crashed mid-test to devices so dangerous they ended the life of their own inventor, you won't believe how far human ambition has gone. Stay with us because the next stories will shake your faith in progress itself. Number 13. The tank that tried to fly. Soviet engineers created one of military history's strangest inventions, a flying tank. The Antonov A-40, nicknamed the Flying Tank, was a 1940s experiment aimed at dropping armored vehicles directly into battle by air. The plan involved attaching enormous glider wings to a light tank, towing it skyward behind a bomber, then gliding it into enemy territory. Once landed, wings would be jettisoned and the tank would enter combat with guns blazing. On paper, it seemed like Call of Duty brought to life. In reality, it barely got off the ground. Engineers stripped down a light T-60 tank to reduce weight, removing ammunition, armor parts, and extra fuel. Giant wooden wings and a tail assembly were bolted on, turning the tank into a single-use glider. In 1942, test pilot Sergei Anokhin climbed into the A-40 for its only flight. A Soviet TB-3 bomber attempted towing the beast into the air, but the tank proved too heavy. The aircraft struggled, lost altitude, and was forced to cut the tow cable. Surprisingly, Anokhin managed to glide the A-40 back to Earth and survive the landing, but the test was a complete failure. The concept was immediately scrapped. No other flying tanks were built. The technology simply wasn't ready. The Soviets needed more powerful aircraft or lighter armor, neither of which existed. Number 12. The Speed King Who Couldn't Slow Down. John Cobb lived for speed and died chasing it on water. This British racing driver held the world land speed record, pushing cars to over 390 miles per hour on salt flats. But land wasn't enough. He wanted to conquer water too. In 1952, Cobb brought his jet-powered boat Crusader to Scotland's Loch Ness, aiming to break the water speed record. The boat was a beast, 31 feet of pure engineering powered by a de Havilland Ghost jet engine. It looked more like a missile than a boat, which should have been a warning sign. During his record attempt, Cobb hit around 200 miles per hour when disaster struck. The boat suddenly nosedived and disintegrated completely, killing him instantly. Film footage captured the whole tragedy, showing the boat literally coming apart at high speed. Investigators later found that water speed records were way more dangerous than land records. On land, cars could slide and roll when things went wrong. On water, boats could flip, dive, or explode with no chance of survival. The forces involved were just too brutal for 1950s technology to handle safely. Cobb's death highlighted how water speed records pushed engineering beyond safe limits. Even today, water speed records remain incredibly dangerous, with several fatal attempts since Cobb's crash. His legacy lives on, though. Modern speedboats use designs that learned from his tragedy, and his land speed records stood for years. He proved that some barriers exist for good reasons, and breaking them requires more than just courage and horsepower. I have a question for you. First, I would like to say that it is possible to follow the greatest curiosities of our world every day. But to do so, you need to be subscribed to our channel. So, are you already subscribed? If not, take the opportunity to subscribe now. Also, take the opportunity to like the video so YouTube will recommend more videos from our channel. So leave your like right now. And now that you have done that, let's go! Number 11. The Daredevil Who Missed His Mark. Carl Susick never settled for ordinary. This Canadian stuntman had nerves of steel and was famous for surviving a plunge over Niagara Falls in a custom red barrel. That 1984 stunt earned him international fame and opened doors to new opportunities. But Susick wanted more thrills. His next act would take place indoors, inside Houston's Astrodome. The plan seemed perfect. Launch his barrel from a 180-foot platform into a water tank in front of a live audience. The setup looked foolproof. But during the drop, the barrel spun wildly and missed the tank's center completely. It hit the edge hard and shattered on impact. Susek was pulled from the wreckage alive but critically injured. He died shortly after from his injuries. What makes this story even more striking is that NASA engineers had supposedly advised against the stunt, warning about serious risks. Susek, known for his confidence, went ahead anyway. He believed his barrel could handle the impact, just like it had at Niagara Falls. The difference was that Niagara had rushing water to Number 10. The radiant death of scientific brilliance. Marie Curie discovered elements that glowed like magic but killed like poison. Born in Poland and later working in France, she became the first woman to win a Nobel Prize and remains the only person to win in two different sciences, physics and chemistry. Alongside her husband Pierre, she isolated radioactive elements like polonium and radium. These mysterious materials emitted energy seemingly from nothing, defying known chemistry laws, while illuminating darkness like science fiction come true. Nobody understood their danger. Radium became a fashion craze, added to beauty creams, toothpaste, and health tonics people consumed for vitality. While radium dazzled the public, it was silently destroying those who worked with it daily. Curie spent hours in close contact with radioactive samples, carrying radium tubes in her pockets. Her notebooks from that era remain so radioactive they're stored in lead-lined boxes, requiring special protection for handling. During those early years, protective equipment wasn't even considered. She worked tirelessly in improvised, underfunded laboratories, surrounded by invisible dangers. Over time, exposure took its toll. She developed aplastic anemia, believed linked to radiation damage in her bone marrow. She died in 1934, but her legacy transformed the world. Her discoveries paved the way for X-rays, cancer treatments, and nuclear science. During World War I, she equipped ambulances with mobile X-ray machines, personally training doctors on their use. Number 9. The balloon pioneer who flew too close to danger. Jean-François Pilatre de Rosier wasn't just a name in early aviation, he was the name. In 1785, he and the Marquis d'Arlanz became the first humans to fly in a manned hot air balloon. Built by the Montgolfier brothers, the balloon soared over Paris for about 25 minutes, thrilling crowds and shocking the scientific world. De Rosier became an instant icon, but he wasn't finished yet. He wanted to achieve something even bolder. Crossing the English Channel by balloon was more than just a feat. It was a political gesture, symbolizing unity through science. His plan was ambitious. Instead of using only hot air, he designed a hybrid balloon, combining hot air and hydrogen, called a Rosier balloon. On paper, it seemed brilliant, but mixing open flames with hydrogen gas was asking for serious trouble. In 1785, de Rosier took off from France with his partner Pierre Romain. Minutes into the flight, the balloon caught fire and plummeted from the sky, killing both men instantly. De Rosier became aviation's first recorded fatality. But despite the tragic end, the Rosier... Number 8. The pioneer who conquered the skies too soon. Otto Lilienthal glided through German skies long before the Wright brothers took flight. This Prussian engineer wasn't just dreaming about aviation, he was living it. Between 1891 and 1896, he completed over 2,000 glider flights, meticulously documenting every detail. His approach was scientific yet daring. He climbed hilltops, strapped himself to delicate winged structures, and launched into the unknown. Each flight taught him about wing curvature, wind behavior, and aerodynamic principles through pure trial and error. Lilienthal's gliders resembled giant birds with fixed wings and simple weight shift control systems. They worked surprisingly well for short distances, making him a celebrity across Europe. Crowds gathered in Berlin to watch the flying man soar down hillsides. Newspapers chronicled his every achievement. But summer 1896 brought tragedy. During a routine flight, sudden wind gusts hit his glider, causing it to stall and crash from 50 feet. He suffered a fractured spine and died the following day. His final words reportedly were, "Sacrifices must be made." Lilienthal wasn't seeking thrills. He was laying aviation's foundation. The Wright brothers credited him as direct inspiration, studying his published works extensively. NASA later honored his contributions to flight science. His restored gliders now hang in museums worldwide, testament to a visionary who soared too close to tomorrow. Keep the flying car that never landed. Henry Smolinski tried building a real flying car in the early 1970s, but his dream crashed spectacularly. This wasn't just eccentric dreaming. Smolinski was an aeronautical engineer who co-founded Advanced Vehicle Engineers. His bold plan involved taking a Ford Pinto, attaching airplane wings and a rear engine from a Cessna Skymaster, transforming it into a personal flying machine called the AV Mizar. The concept seemed brilliant on paper. Drive the Pinto to an airport, attach wings and tail in minutes, then take off like an airplane. Once landed, detach the wings and drive away. No hangar needed, no separate pilot cabin, just you, your car, and open sky. In practice, it was a disaster waiting to happen. The Pinto wasn't known for structural strength, and bolting on aircraft components added dangerous complexity. Nevertheless, AV launched prototypes and completed several short test flights. But during a 1973 demonstration, catastrophe struck. One wing support broke loose mid-air, causing the aircraft to lose control. Number 6. The press that crushed its creator. William Bullock revolutionized newspaper printing, but paid with his life for perfecting his creation. In mid-19th century America, newspaper printing was slow, noisy, and incredibly clumsy. Bullock's rotary printing press changed everything. Instead of feeding individual paper sheets like older presses, his design used continuous rolls, printing on both sides and cutting automatically at unprecedented speeds. This machine made daily newspapers truly daily experiences. Suddenly, papers could be printed faster, cheaper, and in massive volumes. Publications exploded in popularity thanks to Bullock's innovation, which became a cornerstone of the journalism industry. However, the machine that made him famous also orchestrated his shocking downfall. In 1867, while repairing one of his presses at a Philadelphia newspaper factory, Bullock attempted adjusting a belt on a moving machine. What should have been routine maintenance turned deadly when his leg became caught in the mechanism. The crushing injury led to severe infection and Number 5. The Rocket Man Who Reached Too Far. Max Valier wanted to touch the stars, and rockets were his ladder to heaven. Born in Austria, this guy was way ahead of his time, building rocket-powered cars, planes, and dreaming of spaceships when most people thought rockets belonged in fireworks shows. He co-founded the German Rocket Society and spent the late 1920s strapping rockets to wheels, creating cars that thrilled crowds and hit crazy speeds. But Valier wasn't just putting on a show. This was real science, cutting-edge stuff that would later help put humans on the moon. He started experimenting with liquid fuel rockets, which was huge, way better than the solid fuel versions that burned fast and super hot. The liquid fuel rockets could be controlled, throttled up or down, making them perfect for space travel. But on one fateful day in 1930, during a bench test of a liquid fuel engine in his lab, everything went wrong. The motor exploded with devastating force, killing Valier instantly. He was just 36 years old. His death sent shockwaves through the small but passionate rocket community. Even so, his ideas lived on.
Valier laid crucial groundwork for others, including Wernher von Braun, who later helped design rockets for Germany and, after the war, for the United States. Today, Valier's name is remembered mostly by space historians. And
Number 4. The submarine that became an underwater tomb. During the American Civil War, Horace Lawson Hundley believed underwater warfare could change everything. This Confederate engineer designed a hand-powered submarine capable of sneaking up on Union warships and destroying them with explosives. What sounded like pure science fiction became terrifyingly real. Hundley's design was a cigar-shaped vessel, 40 feet long, powered by cranks. 8 crew members turned a crankshaft connected to the propeller while submerged, navigating with primitive controls and minimal oxygen. The submarine, officially called H.L. Hundley after its creator, was plagued by accidents from the start. Its first test ended with 5 crew members dead. Instead of abandoning the project, Hundley pressed forward, convinced the concept could work. In October 1863, he decided to personally test the Hundley. It would be his last decision. The submarine sank in Charleston Harbor, killing everyone aboard, including Hundley himself. Despite setbacks, the Confederacy salvaged the submarine, repaired it, and sent it out again. In 1864, the H.L. Hundley made history as the first submarine to sink an enemy warship, the USS Housatonic. But even this successful mission ended tragically. The submarine never returned to the surface. For over a century, the Hundley remained lost. Then, in the late 1990s, it was recovered from the ocean floor, remarkably intact. Inside, researchers found the last crew's remains still seated at their posts. Today, the Hundley is displayed in South Carolina, a haunting monument to early underwater warfare innovation. Hundley didn't live to see his invention's success, but he...
Number 3. The Flying Tailor's Fatal Leap. Franz Reichelt wasn't just stitching clothes in his Parisian workshop. This Austrian tailor was designing what he believed would revolutionize aviation forever. His invention combined a parachute with a wearable suit, eliminating bulky backpacks that pilots feared would encourage jumping instead of saving aircraft. The year was 1912, and flying machines obsessed the world. Reichelt tested prototypes using dummies, claiming success, but authorities remained skeptical. Determined to prove his design worked, he chose the Eiffel Tower as his demonstration platform. He requested permission, claiming he'd use a mannequin, but when the moment arrived, he climbed the tower wearing his wool and silk parachute suit. Reporters gathered with cameras rolling, capturing footage that survives today. The jump should have showcased graceful floating to the ground. Instead, disaster struck. His suit inflated slightly before collapsing completely. Reichelt plummeted while the silent crowd watched in horror. Everything ended in seconds. His invention had failed catastrophically, taking his life and dreams with it. Modern wingsuit athletes flying from cliffs owe their existence to pioneers like Reichelt. His vision wasn't as distant from reality as it seemed from the ground. Number 2. The ship designer who went down with his creation. Thomas Andrews knew every rivet, every bulkhead, every corridor of the RMS Titanic because he designed it all. As chief designer for Harland & Wolff shipyards, he created what was supposed to be an unsinkable marvel of luxury and engineering. When the ship departed in 1912, Andrews sailed along, not as a passenger, but to observe and ensure everything functioned perfectly. He wasn't just supervising final touches, he genuinely cared about passenger safety and comfort, carrying a small notebook and making observations for future ship improvements. But on the 4th night at sea, the Titanic struck an iceberg, and everything changed forever. While chaos erupted, Andrews didn't run for a lifeboat. Witnesses later reported seeing him moving through the decks, encouraging passengers to wear life jackets and get to safety. He helped women and children into lifeboats, guided crew members, and even threw deck chairs overboard for flotation. Several survivors remembered seeing him until the very end, calm and composed, refusing to abandon his post. One steward recalled Andrews alone in the smoking room, staring at a painting as water approached. He had designed the ship, and now he was sinking with it. Although the Titanic featured advanced safety features for its time, it lacked sufficient lifeboats for everyone aboard. Andrews had actually pushed for more lifeboats, but his suggestions were rejected to preserve deck space. This decision...
Number 1. The speed demon that went off track. Valerian Abakovsky wanted to revolutionize Soviet transportation with his airplane-powered train. In the early 1920s, this young engineer created something unprecedented: a high-speed rail car powered by an aircraft engine and propeller called the Aerowagon. It looked like something from science fiction comics, part train, part aircraft. The goal was transporting government officials across long distances quickly. Instead of conventional engines, Abakovsky mounted an enormous propeller on a railcar's rear, connecting it to an airplane engine. The contraption resembled an experimental jet on rails more than a traditional train. And surprisingly, it worked somewhat. During its first major demonstration in 1921, the Aerowagon reached impressive speeds, cutting through tracks at nearly 90 miles per hour. Passengers were thrilled, including Abakovsky himself and several high-ranking Soviet delegates. But on the return journey, disaster struck. The Aerowagon derailed at high speed, throwing passengers and destroying the experimental vehicle. Abakovsky died along with 5...
Still curious? Then don't stop now. The next mystery is already waiting for you. Just click the video on screen. I saved it just for you. See you there, curious one.